If you don't want to be associated with a recorder, then don't choose this instrument. Hey guys, welcome back to another awkward video of mine. As suggested from the title of this video, today I'm going to tell you 10 reasons why you shouldn't play the flute. For anyone out there that's considering taking up a new instrument and they want to know what they're in for when they pick the flute, please watch this video. This is for you. If you're like me and you've already been playing the flute for years, then it's a little bit too late for you now. But keep watching this video anyways. Now, of course, I love the flute, and don't get me wrong, I think it's one of the best instruments that you can pick. But having been playing it for 15 years, I definitely do know the upsides and also the downsides that come with the instrument. So without further ado, here are 10 reasons why you shouldn't play the flute. Alright, so the first one is, if you're someone that hates standing up and you're a couch potato and you just like sitting down all day, flute is probably going to be a bit of a struggle for you. I know that there are a lot of other instruments that are the same, but say piano for example, you're never going to be standing up in your life playing the piano. So just keep in mind that you'll have to mentally prepare yourself to stand for hours and hours on end. But if that's something that doesn't really bother you, like for me, I don't really mind if I'm standing all the time, then it doesn't really apply to you. Alright, so the second reason is very similar to the one I just mentioned. In addition to standing up all the time, you're also going to have to be holding up the flute all the time. And literally, I mean holding it up, because there's nothing supporting your instrument other than your hands. Unlike a violin where it rests on your shoulder, you can't rest your flute on your shoulder. The average flute weighs about 400 to 600 grams, so you're going to be holding up half a kilo in your hands for hours every day. I guess the upside to that is you get some pretty good guns from doing that. See this is the result of all the hard work I do. I'm moving on to the third reason, and this one is not something that I ever saw coming until much later. Eventually, at some point, it's really likely that you're going to be forced to play the piccolo in the orchestra or in the band, aka the screechy boy. It's kind of like a lot of violinists tend to end up playing viola. It's the same thing with piccolo. Most of the time, you're pretty much expected to know how to play it if you play the flute. And it's something that no one wants to do, like no one wants to be the piccolo player. I've definitely been forced to be in that position and it was not that nice. I'm pretty sure the entire string section hated me. You're basically guaranteed to make enemies with the string section because they're right next to you. No one likes to be sitting next to a screechy boy. Alright, the fourth reason is, for anyone that doesn't play the flute or they don't play woodwind instrument, they're going to think that it's kind of gross. Especially when you've been playing for a while and then you get condensation forming up inside the flute, and the next thing you know, it drips out of your flute. And everyone just looks at you in disgust and thinks it's spit. But it really isn't. But no one ever actually believes that. So yeah, it's not that nice to have people thinking you're gross, because it's not spit. This brings me to number 5. Be prepared to receive sexual innuendos and remarks from people all the time. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then go ahead and watch this video where I talk about things people say to flute players. It's just awkward. Like, it's just awkward. I don't know how to respond to those kind of comments. Alright, so number 6 is one I also didn't expect, but I feel like is really important to know beforehand. If you pick the flute as your main instrument, you're going to have to come to terms with the fact that the flute, unfortunately, doesn't have a very wide range of repertoire. Of course, there are some awesome and amazing pieces like Carvine Sonata, Prokofiev Sonata, Mozart concertos, and you know, all of that. There is a lot, but you won't be able to play works from a lot of really big composers like Tchaikovsky, Beethoven, Chopin, Rachmaninoff, all of those giant classical composers. Unless you're playing in an orchestra, but then that's very different to playing a solo work. I think that's probably the biggest downside to choosing flute is I wish that there were more classic works for the flute from all of these composers. So this brings me to number 7. This is a really obvious one, but the flute, as you know, can only play one note at a time. It can't harmonize with itself like a violin can or a piano. 99% of the repertoire you play is not complete until you play it with an accompaniment, which is usually a piano or an orchestra. So you always have to depend on another instrument to make the work that you're performing complete. Number 8 is having shaky breath. I know every instrument has its own issues, but I do feel like it's way more obvious if you're nervous while you play the flute than when you're playing the piano. Because everything you play is just going to sound like this. Yeah, as you can see, it's quite embarrassing actually, and it's really obvious when it happens. So number 9 only applies to you if you're a guy playing the flute, which is actually pretty common. If you're a guy playing the flute, you basically have to own up to the fact that everyone is going to be questioning whether you're gay or not all the time. If you are, then I guess that's all cool and everything. If you're not, then I don't know, it could be tiresome or it could be really annoying for you. But it does happen. Even if they're not saying it, they're thinking it. And the last reason is for non-musicians especially, or your family members or family friends, very often they're going to associate your instrument with the recorder. A lot of people actually think it's the same thing, which I don't understand why, because they just look completely different and they have different names as well. But yeah, a lot of people might just associate you with the recorder and they think you're going to be playing the recorder, which is never a good thing. I'm just joking. So if you don't want to be associated with the recorder, then don't choose this instrument. So there you go, those are 10 reasons why you shouldn't play the flute. I hope this opened up your eyes and gave you some insight into what life is like playing the flute. And as I said, of course, there are many upsides to playing the flute as well. Remember to like and subscribe and turn on the notifications. I post twice a week and I shall see you next time. Bye!